Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something a little different. Horror stories involving the Instagram app. I asked you all to send in your creepiest encounters, and let me tell you, some of these are truly chilling. From mysterious followers to unnerving messages, it seems like social media isn't always as innocent as it seems. So, buckle up. I called the police. And get ready. My hands because we're shaking about to explore some spine-tingling tales. They arrived quickly. You think twice and arrested him before checking your notifications. Ryan was charged with stalking and harassment. Even though he was finally out of my life, the fear remained. When I was 13, I changed my number. An incident happened to a new dorm. I'll never forget, and made sure my social media profiles were completely private. I no longer live in that neighborhood. I learned to always be on guard. When I visited my parents, the nightmare could start again. I saw our old at any moment, and the memories came rushing back. Here's some background. I live in a rural town in a developing country. Our neighborhood is rough for outsiders, but we are friendly with each other. Even people who just got out of jail are usually nice. We have many people with mental problems, and Zane is one of them. My mom and I call him Zane because his name means grace, and we joke, "Oh, Zane, are you feeling graceful?" Because he always smiles. That is, unless someone makes him angry, which happens at least 3 times a year. I lived there for 11 years, so I know how he is. Zane lives with his 2 brothers. One sells fruits, and the other is a rickshaw driver. Zane doesn't work because he is mentally ill. I think he has some kind of schizophrenia, but I'm not sure which one. He just doesn't act right. You can't talk to him about sports or the news or anything. His sentences don't make sense. I should also say that our country doesn't take mental illnesses seriously. We have only 3 psych wards in the whole country. There is no treatment for him, and people just call him crazy. It's really sad. My dad was friends with Zane and his brothers. Not anymore, though. My dad used to give him money so he could buy smokes. He knew the rickshaw driver brother had to support his 2 kids in another town, and the fruit seller barely made any money. Zane would help carry groceries, and Dad would give him some change. So, since I was a kid, I knew Zane as someone helpful and friendly. I always smiled at him, and he smiled back. But when I turned 11, he changed. He still had the smile on his face, and he stood outside in different shady spots all day, smoking. I woke up at 7 a.m. for school and saw him outside, wide awake and smoking. He either didn't sleep or woke up way too early. He also walked long distances. One day, when I was 12, things got really scary. It was a hot day, and I was walking home from school. Zane was standing in his usual spot, smoking. As I walked past him, he suddenly grabbed my arm. His smile was gone, and his eyes looked empty. He said, "You can't leave. You belong to me." I pulled away and ran home as fast as I could. I told my mom what happened, and she called my dad. My dad talked to Zane's brothers, but they just said he was off his meds. They promised to keep an eye on him, but I was still scared. After that, I avoided Zane as much as I could, but he always seemed to be watching me. We would see him in places that took us about half an hour to reach by car, so imagine how long it took him on foot. He seemed restless, but mostly he just stood and smoked. Sometimes he was out early in the morning, and other times very late at night. His behavior became very creepy. He always stared at me with a strange, forced smile when I passed by him. He followed me with his eyes, sometimes walking backward to keep staring. I glanced back a few times to confirm he did this every time. He would also press his back against walls like he was hiding. His whole behavior changed completely. His anger and fits became more frequent. He would shout nonsense and angrily walk toward his house. Now, to what actually happened to me. As I said, he always followed me with his eyes. I was 14 years old, and one day I happened to be home alone. I didn't go out with my family because I had to study. He probably knew I was alone, because whenever my family left, I saw him through the window, standing in his usual spot, staring as they drove off. Lunchtime came, so I went out to buy some stuff to cook. I saw him standing next to his brother who sells fruit at the local market. I went to buy some veggies and meat. The vegetables were close to where Zane was, but the butcher was a minute's walk away. As I paid the butcher and put my purchase into my bag, I looked up and saw Zane staring at me. I didn't think much of it and turned to walk home, but he was right behind me again. I still didn't think much of it because our houses were right next to each other. I passed his house and waited to hear his footsteps stop, but they didn't. He was still right behind me. I looked back and saw his eyes still on me with that creepy smile. Still, I didn't worry because I thought he was just going to his usual spot to light a cigarette. I never felt in danger in my neighborhood, so I wasn't easily scared, especially by Zane, even during his rage fits. I didn't think he was dangerous. That's why I didn't notice any red flags. I entered the main door from the street and walked into the wide hall. There was one door where an old woman lived. I passed her door and turned right to climb the stairs to my house on the second floor. I heard someone enter the main door and walk into the hall again. I thought it was one of the neighbors from the third floor. The footsteps were quick, so I thought someone was in a hurry. I turned to look at the bottom of the stairs to see who it was and make room for them to pass. To my shock, it was none other than Zane at the bottom of the stairs. I stopped in my tracks. My heart started pounding fast. I said, "Zane, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer. Instead, he started running towards me, taking 2 steps at a time. I tried to climb faster, but he caught my foot, and I slipped. My right arm and knee hurt a lot from the fall. He dragged me to the bottom of the stairs, which hurt my back even more. But with all the adrenaline in my veins, I started kicking to free my ankle from his hands and screamed for him to get off. I also screamed for help, hoping one of the neighbors would hear and come to rescue me. With my free leg, I kicked his arm to make him let go, then kept kicking and shaking the other leg free. Finally, I got free. I turned and started climbing again, afraid he would follow me into the house. I kicked at him, hoping to make him lose balance and fall down the stairs to give me time to get inside. I kicked and screamed, and it felt like forever, but it was probably only 5 seconds. Then I heard the door of the old lady downstairs open. She heard the noise too, so Zane ran away. He passed her house, so she saw him and shouted at him, but he didn't listen. She called my name, asking if I was okay, but I couldn't respond. She popped her head up from the bottom of the stairs, still calling my name, but all I could do was cry and feel the pain. My elbow was bleeding, and she started calling for my mom. I told her nobody was home, so she asked me to come to her house so she could help with my bleeding. I said I would do it myself, but she insisted. Eventually, I ignored her and slowly climbed the stairs to my house. After about an hour, I calmed down a bit and went to the old lady's house. I knocked, and she opened the door. I asked her not to tell my parents, because if my dad knew, he would probably kill Zane. Told her that Zane was just crazy, and my dad shouldn't go to jail for someone who wasn't in their right mind. I convinced her that Zane wasn't thinking straight, and that it wasn't that serious. She promised not to say anything to my family, and that was that. For the next 2 years, Zane changed again. This time, he wouldn't even look me in the eyes. If I was walking and he was coming towards me, he would turn around and walk away. The first few months, I was scared he would be waiting around a corner or something, but he just didn't want to be seen by me. When I was in 5th to 8th grade, I was very active on a small building server. The average age was around 12 to 14, and I joined a group of builders and talked with them on Skype every weekend for hours. We all became close friends quickly and trusted each other enough to follow each other on Instagram. I became especially close with one of the builders named Ryan. Ryan was in the same grade as me, and we ended up texting a lot. I heard some rumors that Ryan might have a crush on me, which he denied. I found it funny because it was the internet, so I just brushed it off. Everything was fine for a while, until something began to feel really off whenever I talked to him. I started noticing him telling small lies constantly. This bothered me a lot, so I decided it was time to distance myself from him and stop talking to him altogether. A few months later, out of nowhere, Ryan sent me a text saying he might be transferring to my middle school. He said he was doing this to get in-state tuition for college. Ryan's plan was to live alone and support himself while still in middle school. My stomach dropped when I read that text, and I felt very uneasy. I tried to stay calm, but also told him that his plan was crazy. I said it was strangely convenient that he chose my random suburb of all places. Ryan insisted that his plan would work out, and that it was just a coincidence he was going to my middle school. I tried to call Ryan's bluff, hoping he was just messing with me because I had cut him off. Ryan then said he had already bought plane tickets and was coming to stay in my town to visit some middle schools in the area. Fear washed over me. I began to realize that Ryan had some really weird, unhealthy attachment to me. Ryan wasn't bluffing. To my horror, he posted a picture on Instagram from the airport. Ryan asked me to meet him there, but of course, I declined. Later, I saw on his Instagram story that he was actually taking a tour of my middle school. He took lots of videos and pictures, probably hoping I would see them. Luckily for me, I was stuck at home with pneumonia. I spent the next few days totally on edge, afraid he would ring my doorbell at any moment. Luckily, he wasn't smart enough to find where I lived, and he flew home without following his plan. The most baffling part? None of my old group from the Minecraft server even thought he was doing anything creepy. I honestly felt like I was going crazy for thinking this was weird. I thought my rejection of his meetup would be the end of it. But about 2 years later, I had just committed to my dream high school. I still stupidly followed Ryan on Instagram because I wanted some kind of warning if he was coming to my area again. Once again, he did. I saw him posing right in front of the library at my high school with the caption saying, "Transferring here is definitely the move." A few months later, Ryan found out that I had a boyfriend. He contacted me directly for the first time in 2 years. He started asking strange questions like, "Is he going to protect you?" I shouldn't have answered, but for some reason, I did. I finally blocked him and, out of fear, decided to stop following him on Instagram. I thought that was the end of it, but then things got worse. One evening, while studying in the library, I noticed a figure standing outside, staring through the glass. My heart sank when I realized it was Ryan. I quickly gathered my things and left through a different exit, hoping to avoid him. Over the next few weeks, I started receiving anonymous texts from an unknown number, describing my daily routines in disturbing detail. "Nice red sweater today," one message read. "Loved the blue dress you wore yesterday." One night, as I was walking back to my dorm, I felt a presence behind me. I turned around, and there he was, just a few feet away, smiling that same unsettling smile. I ran as fast as I could and managed to get inside safely. I reported everything to campus security, and they increased patrols around the dorms. However, the texts continued, becoming more and more specific, describing what I was doing at that exact moment. The final straw came when I received a message that read, "I'm inside." Panicking, I ran to my dorm room, locking the door behind me. I heard footsteps in the hallway, and then a quiet knock on my door. "I just want to talk," Ryan's voice whispered through the door. I called the police, my hands shaking uncontrollably. They arrived quickly and arrested him. Ryan was charged with stalking and harassment. Even though he was finally out of my life, the fear remained. I changed my number, moved to a new dorm, and made sure my social media profiles were completely private. I learned to always be on guard, knowing that the nightmare could start again at any moment. Third story, The Follower. It all started innocently enough. I was just another 20-something scrolling through Instagram, wasting time between work and sleep. I loved the usual things: memes, food pics, and those perfectly filtered snapshots of people's lives that seemed too good to be true. I never imagined that the app could turn into something sinister. One night, while lying in bed, I got a new follower notification. I didn't recognize the username, at ShadowLurker192, but curiosity got the better of me, and I checked out their profile. To my surprise, it was completely empty. No profile picture, no posts, nothing. Just an eerie silence emanating from their blank page. I shrugged it off. Probably just a bot, I thought. But then the messages started. "Hello?" I saw the notification pop up at the top of my screen. It was from @ShadowLurker192. I hesitated, but eventually opened it. "Who is this?" I typed back. "Someone who sees you," came the reply almost instantly. A chill ran down my spine. This had to be some kind of prank. I blocked the account and put my phone down, trying to shake off the unease that settled over me. But sleep didn't come easily that night. I felt like I was being watched, like eyes were on me from the darkness of my room. The next morning, I had another follower notification. @ShadowLurker192 was back. My heart pounded as I saw the message waiting for me. "Why did you block me?" This was getting too weird. I blocked the account again, but no matter how many times I did, it always came back, each time with a more disturbing message than the last. "I can see you. I know where you live. Look outside your window." I didn't dare to. curtains stayed drawn, but the sense of being watched never left. I could feel it, a heavy presence pressing down on me. My friends thought I was overreacting, that it was just some troll having a laugh at my expense. But it felt so much more real than that. One evening, as I was washing dishes, I felt an overwhelming urge to look up. My kitchen window overlooked the street, and there, under the flickering streetlight, stood a figure. It was too dark to make out any details, but I knew, deep down, that it was at Shadowlurker 192. My phone buzzed. With shaking hands, I picked it up and saw a new message from the account. Nice house. I dropped the phone, my heart hammering in my chest. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. I ran to my front door, double-checking the locks, making sure every window was shut tight. I called the police, but they found nothing. No signs of anyone outside. The messages continued, each more terrifying than the last. Each one proving that at Shadowlurker 192 was always watching, always there. My social media turned into a horror show of its own. I stopped posting, stopped engaging with anyone. My friends noticed my absence, but I couldn't explain it to them without sounding crazy. One night, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing incessantly. Groggy and disoriented, I reached for it, squinting at the screen. Dozens of notifications from Instagram, all from at Shadowlurker 192. Let me in. I'm right outside. Don't ignore me. My blood ran cold. The messages were coming in rapid succession, creating a cacophony of dread. And then, the final message made my heart stop. I'm inside. I looked up from my phone, and there, standing in the doorway of my bedroom, was a shadowy figure. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form, a malevolent presence that thrived on my fear. As it stepped closer, I could see it more clearly. It had no distinct features, just a black, shifting mass, like smoke trapped in human form. It reached out towards me, and I felt an icy chill grip my heart. I tried to scream, to move, to do anything, but I was paralyzed. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the cold, empty eyes of the shadow, and the sense of utter, consuming dread. When I woke up, I was alone. My phone lay next to me. The screen cracked, the battery dead. There were no messages, no notifications, no sign of its Shadowlurker 192. But the sense of being watched never left me. Even now, as I write this, I can feel those eyes on me, waiting for the right moment to strike again. So, if you ever get a follower request from at Shadowlurker 192, don't engage. Block them, delete your account if you have to. Just don't let them in. Because once you do,